Hi there. Welcome back to my news. Four news stories. Firstly, call for regime change in Eritrea. A U.S. Academic who worked at Pentagon wrote an article calling for regime change in Eritrea, and to which we saw a swift response from Eritrean government. Secondly, Salsivajene, a Tigray opposition party, is calling for dismantlement of Tigray interim government. Thirdly, two Ethiopian athletes who won medals for Ethiopia in the past have expressed their views about Ethiopian economy. And their views are opposed to each other. What did they say? Lastly, was Kore zone of Ethiopia, where violence, ethnic border violence, ongoing for years. In the renewed violence, four deaths being reported in the last 2 weeks. Two happened this week, and two in December, at the end of December. What is happening there in Kore? What is the reason of dispute there? By the way, these ethnic boundary disputes are spread across Ethiopia. Before these four news stories, just a quick update for you. In the last video, I told you about two draft regulations tabled at the House of People's Representatives. One regulation is about uh, punishment for those who store fuel and who sell fuel at unauthorized locations. Second law is a controversial law. It's about asset beyond means. It will punish those who have assets beyond their income. First law has been approved by the parliament. So if anyone is found selling petroleum products or storing petroleum products at places not registered, not specified for the purpose, they will be put in prison up to 3 year imprisonment. From 50,000 to 1,000 bir fine could be imposed, and the fuel products will be confiscated. Now, here's four news stories. First one is from Eritrea. By the way, call for regime change in Eritrea from the US is not something new. For years, rather for decades, US has been trying to overthrow Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki. Eritrea imposed sanctions on US imposed sanctions on Eritrean government. Eritrea was cut off from SWIFT. Despite all these measures, Eritrean president could not be removed from power. Eritrea is a very vocal critic of US policies. Though, interestingly, in this new war of words between Eritrean government and a US think tank official, Eritrean government has been very reluctant or very restrained in its criticism of the US. That just shows what is the real purpose of this war of words between the two sides. Michael Rubin is a US academic. He's a former Pentagon official. Now he works at American Enterprise Institution, which is basically a think tank. And the man wrote an article calling for regime change in Eritrea. And his article seems to be a message for Republicans, for Donald Trump government. That Donald Trump must make a quick move and remove PFDJ government, Isaias Afwerki government from power. What did Michael Rubin say in the article, and how did Eritrean government respond? Michael Rubin firstly says that Eritrean government destroyed, Eritrean leader destroyed Eritrea. The Eritrea it received in 1993 was a prosperous Eritrea, but now it has been destroyed. It's just like what Robert Mugabe did to Zimbabwe. Firstly, no progress, no development. Secondly, he accuses Eritrea of being a source of instability in the region, of waging wars, of interfering in other countries like in Ethiopia, Sudan, etc. Thirdly, he talks about the human rights situation in Eritrea, national service, etc. Fourthly, he talks about the Eritrean embassies, the way they are raising taxes, 2% diaspora tax they raise, they impose, and the way they mobilize fourth front Eritrean diaspora community against opposition groups, etc. So he is trying to build a case in front of Donald Trump and his government to remove Isaias Afwerki from power. Eritrean embassy in the US issued a statement, and Eritrean Ministry of Information issued a statement. Interestingly, the statements contain no criticism of the US. I think it's a very clever diplomatic uh, uh, exchange between two sides. Michael Rubin is trying to influence the new US government, which will take office now 2 weeks. Eritrea wants better ties. It wants to improve ties with the US. That is why the statement only mentions Michael Rubin. It does not criticize US government openly. Statement issued by Eritrean embassy in the US and its Ministry of Information. Eritrea says that it's one of those countries which fought against Al Qaeda. One of the first countries which fought against Al Qaeda is Eritrea. It always countered and fought insurgency, not insurgency, but extremism and terrorism. Secondly, it has been working to be self reliant. There are no issues in Eritrea. There is peace, there's stability. But the people have been spreading misinformation about Eritrea. They've been trying to drag Eritrea into conflicts. The statement defends national service, that national service in Eritrea is not something which is not happening in other countries. Other countries also have national service like mechanism. That is why whatever is being said by people like Michael Rubin is misrepresentation of facts. These are conflict entrepreneurs who tell lies to defame the Eritrean government, and what Michael Rubin said is a violation of Eritrean sovereignty because he's calling for regime change in Eritrea. But if you remember a few months ago, one American MP called for naval blockade of Eritrea. Michael Rubin is not an MP. He just works at a think tank. But some MPs have been calling for a naval blockade of Eritrea, removal of Isaias Afwerki. Isaias Afwerki government wants to improve ties with Donald Trump government. Donald Trump will definitely reform ties with countries like Eritrea, Russia, and North Korea. That is why the statement by Eritrean embassy in US contains no overt criticism of the US government. So Isaias Afwerki in his interviews has been slamming US for waging wars, for killing people, for destroying economies, etc. But this statement does not have this type of criticism of the US. Let's see what Trump does. Eritrea hoping to improve ties with the Trump government. It has activated its lobbying cells too in the US, reportedly. Michael Rubin trying to counter Eritrean ambitions of better relations with the US, it seems.
Afwerki is ending. His end could not come soon enough. He's 77 years old, and even though he may believe that he is going to last forever, it's clear that Isaias Afwerki is a has-been who will be quickly forgotten in history. He has his what is Isaias Afwerki's legacy? He's taken what could have been the most prosperous country in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa, and transformed it into a ruin. By any objective measure, be it the World Bank, be it the International Monetary Fund, be it by any number of other independent assessors, Eritrea is a disaster, and it needn't be. That is the tragedy. Today, it's one of the poorest countries on earth. It's one of the most corrupt.
Secondly, viewers, the Tigray opposition party is calling for dismantlement of Tigray interim government. We know what is happening in Tigray. I have been updating you about splits in TPLF. TPLF split into Tigray interim government paralyzed. The administrative structure is split in two as well. Areas where TPLF leaders are in control, they're under their control, and their administration has no influence of Tigray interim government. Where Tigray interim government is in control, their TPLF, the Debretsion, has no influence. Sal Sivoyene has issued a statement. It talked to media as well as its leaders. Sal Sivoyene is an opposition party from Tigray. Salse Oyene is saying that Tigray interim government has failed due to political problems in TPLF. Tigray interim government has been weakened. This government must be dismantled, and new interim setup should be put in place after discussions involving all the players. New government should be put in place. Salse Oyene is not a major opposition party. It does not have a very uh, uh, impressive voice in Tigray's politics. Small party. I don't know if Salse Vienna's call will be taken seriously or not, because federal government does not want to fully dismantle Tigray interim government. Where they 2 days ago said that interim government will not be dismantled. There's no question of any negotiation over dismantlement of Tigray interim government. And he backed the continuation of TPLF as well. Opposition parties basically wants to have their share too in running the affairs of Tigray. By the way, yes, Salsevene is speaking the truth. Tigray government does not have authority. It has been weakened. People are suffering. When there is no mayor in Mekelle, you can see how the government is performing. Two mayors in Mekelle, appointed by TPLF and Getachew groups, Tipa Debretsion and Getachew groups. Two mayors appointed in Adirat as well. Tigray government has no control over gold mining in Tigray. It says that quintals, 30, 40 quintals of gold being smuggled out of Tigray every 3-4 months. It has no say, no influence, no authority in areas controlled by TPLF. But it was also Vienna is calling for the establishment of a new structure in Tigray, which perhaps is not likely. Thirdly, viewers, two Ethiopian star athletes of the past have expressed their views about Ethiopian economy. Opposing views. What are they saying? Who are they? Where are they from? Firstly, Haile Gebrselassie spoke, two-time Olympics gold medalist. Haile is a rich man. He just a few days ago inaugurated his 10th resort hotel in Jimma. He has huge investments across Ethiopia. Rich man. Investments in agriculture, hoteling, the sectors. Second athlete is Feyisa Lalisa. Feyisa is the famous athlete who raised his arms over his head, crossed his wrists in protest at Rio Olympics in 2016 when he won a silver medal there. And that symbol which he created at the Olympics, became talk of the town during the Olympics. Obviously, he showed his support for anti-government protests in 2016. He could not return to Ethiopia. He went to the US, I think. He sought asylum there. After Pimabi came to power, I think he returned to Ethiopia. But he remains abroad mostly. He's pro-Ethiopian government, you can say. Haile, I think, mediated between TPLF and Ethiopian government before the start of war. He was part of delegation which went to Tigray, if I'm not wrong. Mediation did not work. And then he did not oppose the war. That is why Tigrayans accuse Haile of backing the war on Tigray. Haile, in his message 2 days ago, said, we're ashamed to admit that life is hard to handle for the poor people. Feyisa defended price hike in the price of fuel products in Ethiopia. Ethiopia increased fuel prices by over 11% 2 days ago. And Feyisa said that if those who have cars, they can buy fuel as well. Those who don't have don't have cars, don't afford fuel, they can ride horses. Feyisa, I think, tried to downplay the gravity of economic hardships for the people of Ethiopia. Haile highlighted the economic hardships faced by the people of Ethiopia. Both are rich men, by the way. What have nothing to do with what people are going through. These Ethiopian athletes, sports celebrity, they are rich men, rich women, and they just want to have a following. They just want to be popular. That is why they issue a statement. But Feysa's defense of government's fuel price increase is surprising. I mean, everyone knows that the increase in fuel prices is going to hurt the people. Common man of Ethiopia is going to suffer. Because when fuel prices increase, every sector of economy is affected. And poor people suffer more. Lastly, viewers, Kore zone of Ethiopia. 2 people killed in the last 48 hours. There, 2 were killed in the last month there. Kore zone has been seeing border dispute for the last 9 years. In Kareda and Jello Kabyles, 2 people were killed in the last 48 hours. And fighters from Guji are being accused of entering Kore to kill the Kore people there. Kore is in South Ethiopia regional state. It shares border with West Guji. Guji and Kore have been in dispute for more than a decade. Kore people accuse Oromo fighters, they call them Shanetu sometimes, that from Guji they enter Kore territories, they attack Kore people, they kidnap people, they demand ransom, they take away livestock, and they kill people. Guji people deny these allegations, but this conflict has been ongoing for several years. And I did a video, I told you about Guji Buranan dispute as well. Protests still ongoing in Guji against the creation of East Burana zone, which includes Nagale, which was under Guji administration. For the last around 2 years, the protests have been ongoing over inclusion of Nagale in East Burana zone. So these ethnic disputes, border disputes are spread across Ethiopia. It's not just between Tigray and Amhara, Afar and Somali, Oromia and Amhara. These boundary disputes, these ethnic clan disputes have been ongoing for years, for decades. No permanent solutions have been found. By the way, People accuse colonial powers. They say colonial powers drew borders, and those borders are source of instability between the countries. Somalis are split in three countries, Afar as well. Now, who drew the border of Guji and Borana, Tigray and Amhara, Oromia and Amhara? Would you blame colonial powers for drawing these borders? No. These borders were drawn by people, by leaders of these countries. They could not draw borders in perhaps an acceptable and neutral manner. That is why issues ongoing. Thank you for watching.